I think it's ironic, and I think a lot of avid readers will concur with me, that the question that readers are least likely to want to answer is, what is your favourite book of all time? Because, and your head just kind of explodes, because if you're like me, there are books that mean things because of location, because of what I was going through at the time, because of family, because it reminds me of something. And then you think, should I just say Harry Potter? Because Harry Potter's like the constant comfort for me. And your head just goes into a spin. However, the answer I'm most likely to give when asked that question is this book. So back in, I think, 2008, I opened this book, and I want to say this without being too melodramatic or too flowery, but it honestly changed my life. There are good books, there are exceptional books, and then there are the books that just make you, after you finish reading, you kind of just stare off into space, because this book has sort of taken over your life for however long it takes you to read it. And I felt kind of lost without it, and it changed how I read, it changed how I wrote, and it changed how I kind of viewed the world around me. It was really that powerful. It's such a beautifully written book, but the power and the history and the compassion behind it is absolutely extraordinary. I mean, I love this book so much. If I was brave enough, maybe one day I will be, I don't know, but I would get a tattoo with "For You 1,000 Times Over." Just definitely. And it's got a double meaning for me, because my mum also adores the book, and it's kind of like our thing, "For You 1,000 Times Over." It was such a heartbreaking, beautiful line of writing. Absolutely love it. So yeah, that is what I get if I was brave enough to have a tattoo. So this isn't a review as such as a celebration of a favourite book, and I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure for a lot of people this is a favourite book and special to them, because, like I say, it's extraordinary. When Khaled Hosseini was asked sort of why it was so universally loved, he said, because its themes of friendship, betrayal, guilt, redemption, and the uneasy love between fathers and sons are universal and not specifically Afghan. The book has been able to reach across cultural, racial, religious, and gender gaps to resonate with readers of varying backgrounds. He said that in 2005, and I think he absolutely sums it up, really. The book, as I say, sort of covers a lot of really dark moments in history, but it's the themes, the characters, the love, occasionally the hate between them, which people just resonate with, I think. So if you've clicked on this video, I'm presuming you maybe read The Kite Runner or reading The Kite Runner. I'm not going to give any spoilers or even sort of go through the plot so much, but I'll just give kind of an overview. So it's set in Kabul in Afghanistan, and it goes back and forth through timelines and places, but it's hard. It starts with two friends, Amir and Hassan, growing up in Kabul in the 1970s, and then life changes, as it did for so many people, when it was the fall of the Afghanistan monarchy and the Soviet invasion. So that's when refugees had to escape, and we go into all that kind of awful stuff. But as I say, it does cover a lot about the Taliban regime. It goes right up to the 9/11 New York attacks, but it's seeing it from a different perspective, and you really start to feel for all kinds of different people. And in fact, when Khaled Hosseini was writing, apparently after the 9/11 attacks, he kind of thought, nobody's going to want to read this. Nobody's going to want to hear about people from Afghanistan. And thank goodness he decided to go for it, because it's such an important story from that point of view. So Khaled Hosseini is also just unfairly clever. He's such an interesting person. I'd absolutely love to meet him. He's just fascinating. So he was working for the medical profession when he's just, casually wrote one of the best books of our time. He wrote in Farsi, French, and then he wrote in English, and the Kite Runner was published. He wrote it in English, but it's been translated to, I think, nearly every language in the world, I'm guessing. So it's really, really moving, I think. I was reading about how the Kite Runner sort of came to be, and Khaled was working in California, and he heard about the Taliban banning kite running and kite flying, which he thought was particularly just cruel, and struck a chord with him because he grew up in Afghanistan and he used to love kite flying. So he wrote a short story, and I think he sent it to the New Yorker and various places, and it got turned down. And it wasn't until later he kind of found it again and developed it into a full novel. Khaled Hosseini is often asked, is it autobiographical? Just about said it. And I think elements you can see are, because Amir, the protagonist, grew up in Afghanistan and then left as a young person, which is what happened to Khaled Hosseini as well. But when he was asked kind of, how much of this is true, he said, having left the country at the time of the Soviet invasion, he felt a certain amount of survivor's guilt, which is heartbreaking. And he said, whenever I read stories about Afghanistan, my reaction was always tinged with guilt. A lot of my childhood friends had a very hard time. Some of our cousins died. One died in a fuel truck trying to escape Afghanistan. That's something that happens to a character actually in the book. Talk about guilt. He was one of the kids I grew up with flying kites. His father was shot. I mean, just unthinkable things. But he's always insisted that, although obviously there's elements there, it is a fictional story. It is a very, very popular book. It's very, very popular in book clubs, I believe. I think that's because you do want to. I mean, the first thing I wanted to do after finishing it was find everybody else had read it, so we could discuss things. And the characters are so just complex, and you kind of have moments of what would I do, what would I do in that situation. It's just stunning, and I sobbed reading the book, watching the play, the film. So yes, there have been adaptations. I recently did a review. I've seen the play 3 times in Nottingham, Liverpool, and most recently in Sheffield. And it's the play I think is better than the film. The film has some really nice moments, but they leave, again, I'm not going to give spoilers, but they leave a lot of the dark stuff out of the film, I presume. So it could get a 12 certificate, but I kind of don't agree with that, because let's face it, a lot of life doesn't fit into a 12 certificate, way of showing life. I think I said that really badly, but hopefully you know what I mean. I just think sometimes you need to just be honest, and sometimes the truth isn't pretty, but it's important that it gets told. And the play does that much better. It does miss out elements, which is annoying, but the play sort of does go there, and it does really leave you, like the book, with that kind of moment at the end. You feel exhausted, but just, even though all these awful things have happened, I find it a hopeful book. Again, I won't say what the lines are because I might cry, but also because I don't want to give any spoilers. But basically the ending sort of offers hope, even if it's a little bit, and it's the start of something that could build into more and more hope. And it's just wonderful. And I just want to, not that I ever think Khaled Hosseini would watch this video, but I just want to thank him for giving this book to the world and for personally just changing, like I say, how I read, how I write. It just inspires me so much. It's just the most remarkable story. So thank you, Khaled Hosseini. And yeah, if you've read the book, watched the film, seen the play, whatever, please do comment and let's talk the Kite Runner, because I could talk about it all day. And everybody, take care of yourselves. Much love. And for you, 1,000 times over.